So, Robert, Pilar, lovely to be here with you in London this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's even sunny, but it is cold.
Yes.
Yes.
So, apologies to Robert, and indeed to you, because I guess you've just come from somewhere exotic.
No, really.
Not really? Oh, well, there we go.
No.
So, Robert, my first question really for you is, can you give us a little idea about the thinking behind the upcoming seminar that we have in Swindon in June?
Yeah, I think it's a program that blossomed out of the work and conversations that Pilar and I have been doing over the past years. For me, leadership has always been a hugely important and central part of my work, partially because I think it is so necessary to make a better world. And for me, the essence of leadership has always been this idea of how do we create a world to which people want to belong. And obviously in the context of an organization, that world is the company.
Sure.
It's the context of the business and the people in that business. But that world could also be a project that somebody's working on with others. That world could be a family, family life. So for me, this idea of leadership has always been central to my work, and leading for me, actually leadership comes from an old English word, in fact. It's one of those words rare words that's actually English. and it comes from word lethon, which doesn't mean control, doesn't mean power, doesn't mean dominance, doesn't mean hierarchy. What it means is to go. So leadership is about going somewhere, and to go, you need a direction and you need energy. I mean, to go anywhere, you need to have a direction to go and the energy to do it. And so this has been something that we've had many conversations about, because interesting questions are, where do you go? Where does one choose to go? And when Pilar came out with her book on the quest for the soul of leadership, Leadership Alchemy, that was a tremendous opportunity for us to sort of put our thoughts together and to explore what I might bring from my work with visionary leadership, alpha leadership, world-class leadership, and what Pilar had been doing with the leadership alchemy, and really sort of offer people something that I think could really make a tremendous difference in their lives, whether that was in the context of a large organization, a small organization, or even a coaching practice.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Brilliant. Pilar, I mean, it's clear from just listening to Robert then that you've been involved in this whole idea from the get-go. What are your thoughts? What would you add to what Robert said?
Well, I would also say that where I come from is from working with world leaders, and how touched I have been by some of them, in the way that some of them I have found that they have really got to a platform of being alchemists and really transform the organization, transform the people they're going with, really develop their people in order to achieve the results. And I have been deeply touched by some of them, and I have seen transformations in the coaching conversations that I have had with them, and I have seen their courage to go to places where they never thought they could go, and actually go there and do it. And they've been very inspiring to me, and that is where we really want to bring, how what we have learned from these leaders, how can we bring it to a room for other people to be inspired, to really get to the platform of authenticity. So therefore everything then comes through, and leadership happens. And leadership, Robert was talking about go and the leader. I started from my situation from the following ship. So as the follower, who do you want to follow, really?
Sure.
And that's how I actually got to the leaders, from the followership. So this is a broad study, and a broad, I'm very analytical. So I bring lots of analysis into what is that I have found. And talking to Robert, he has a wealth of experience. onto all this, and then we just decided to bring it all across. And actually, all this started through that wonderful course where I met Robert, which actually you were there.
Yes,
because we met Robert on the same course.
Life-changing.
And I thought, and I have spoken to you about it several times, that some of the models were too good to, not too good to be not shared in a bigger way. So I sort of invited Robert to really share it with the world again in a different framework, and right in the frame of leadership.
Yes.
And he beautifully said yes, and here we are.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Pilar is a person that's difficult to say no to.
I know that.
That's why she works with these world leaders and gets them to do all these things, take all these risks that they wouldn't normally take.
Fantastic. So, Robert, one of the things I've been interested in with the people who've registered for the course so far is that actually they don't necessarily know you for NLP, but they do know you for your books on leadership.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned a couple of the titles.
Yeah.
Could you sort of perhaps give us one or two ideas of which parts of those books or elements will be in the course that people would benefit from in June?
Well, sure. You know, I think that for me, when you take the idea of leadership, there is a fundamental recipe for leadership, which then becomes enriched in many, many, many different dimensions. But the fundamental recipe for me comes down to these four things, which is, first of all, you have to be able to have and express a vision. This is the idea, have somewhere to go. So what's the vision, and how can you express that with passion? Secondly is you've got to be able to engage others, right? Sort of influence others to join you. And I think in this notion of authentic leadership and leadership alchemy, this has to do with the quality of influence that is getting to people's own self-motivation. So how do we inspire others with the vision so that they want to join? Number three is encouraging team cooperation. Once you have a group that is willing to go towards this vision and is inspired to do it, how do you work together? And this is the whole notion of encouraging collective intelligence and what we would call generative collaboration. And the fourth, which is very key and especially is I think highlighted in this notion of authenticity, is to be an example. As Gandhi said, to be the change that you are trying to create in the world. So I think these four things, how do you form and express a vision? How do we inspire and influence others to join us, like Pilar was saying, so that people want to follow, which means that they also share that vision. Then how do we get people to work together to cooperate, to coordinate, to generatively collaborate in order to create that possibility? And then how do we be the example? So for me, those are always going to be sort of the basic bedrock skills of leadership. And then I think this notion of alchemy is this bringing together of those things in the service of both fulfillment and performance. And that is sort of the holy grail of any kind of organizational work, is that on the one hand there's that sense of fulfillment, and on the other hand it's sort of giving the best of yourself. So I would say that to me is kind of the essence of what we will be getting at with this idea of...
That's fantastic, and it kind of leads me into my next question for Pilar, because I know your practice is primarily working with senior leadership, senior executives and organizations all across Europe and so on, and your book is that leadership alchemy. How do you think that fits with Robert's ideas, and if somebody's never met you before, what's that key message that you think they'll get from you, or key learning?
Well, the book is called The Business Alchemist, even though it talks about the alchemy of leadership. It's called The Business Alchemist. And in the way that it matches with what Robert is saying is that in the book I start by saying, what is inspiring leadership. So there's lots of stories about different leaders that I have coached and that I have known. And there are real stories through the book to illustrate what are the concepts that we will be also sharing in this seminar. Mainly it's about inspiring leadership, and it's about self-leadership, because all leadership starts with the self. So we start leading ourselves, and then when we know how we lead ourselves, then we're ready to lead others.
It's this concept of self-leadership.
Yes, the concept of self-leadership, which is really the one of, we need to get ourselves to a platform of the alchemist before we really need to bring everyone else to really get to that platform of being transformative and transformational.
Mm.
So inspiring and authentic and transformational is all very much on the same space, on the same stage, if you want. So the seminar, the same on the book, and what you touch in your books also, is how to develop ourselves to that level where we can really develop others. So that is real leadership in a 360 leadership, really, not just a one-sided leadership, but
Sure.
360. And also in the concept of, in leadership, when we talk about the followership, is in how do we engage people? How do we get people to really be engaged, as Robert was saying, with the vision? You know, so you may have the greatest vision of all, and if in the communication of that vision you don't engage the people to make it their own and to make something extraordinary happen, as a great leader said, then something is going to be missing. So this is really how I think that we're going to be working on.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Sounds very, very exciting.
Yeah.
So we've touched on this already a little bit, but I know one of the areas that you've done a lot of work, Robert, and indeed with your brother, John, was this idea of modelling success and entrepreneurial thinking,
Right.
which is referred to in your work as success factor modelling.
Right.
Could you just tell us a little bit about how much of that or what elements of that will
Sure.
be in the seminar? One of the things that always springs out at me when I remember is that circle of success.
Yeah.
But what do you think will be the key things that
Well,
we'll
that's
get?
first of all, that's a great question. I'm glad that you bring that up. In fact, I just finished the first draft of the book on success factor modeling. So, and
Yes.
I'm going to be sending the chapters to the publisher very soon. So, and the subtitle of that book is called "Living Your Dreams and Making a Better World." I mean, so that's the essence of success factor modeling, and for me, that's about this new generation of entrepreneurs. That's generation of entrepreneurs that don't want to just go out and make money. That's not really the primary reason that they're doing what they do. I think Steve Jobs put it well when he said, "I'm really not interested in being the richest man in the cemetery."
Sure, yeah.
He said, what I want to do is, I want to be able to go to bed at night looking back and saying, we did something wonderful today.
Yes.
And so I think that notion of entrepreneurship as people living their dream, that is, what is it that I want to create in the world, and making a better world. And I think, as you can tell, that really overlaps very well with the notion of leadership. One of the main differences, of course, in entrepreneurship is you've got to, Pilar has been talking about this notion of a platform, you've got to build that platform from scratch. So to me, in addition to these things that we were talking about, you know, expressing a vision, inspiring others to join you, to encourage team cooperation and be an example, being an entrepreneur involves other things, like some of the chapters are things like creating the future. You've got to create what does not yet exist. I say doing the impossible. Right? Most of the time when you're an entrepreneur, most people are going to say in the beginning, that's impossible, it's never been done before. You've got to be able to rebound from adversity, right? You deal constantly with risk. And you've got to be able to create something out of nothing. I mean, that's one of the main things that entrepreneurs have to do. So in addition to these leadership skills, we're also going to be looking at how do you create a platform. And this involves things, as you mentioned, Tony, this notion of a circle of success, which says, what are some of the main types of relationships that I have to build in order to create a platform? And that platform is built upon, obviously, you have to find what is your product or service, you've got to create your team, you've got to, and sometimes get investment, and if it's not in the form of money, it's going to be in the form of people's time, their energy, maybe their credibility, and you've got to build partnerships. Yes. So we're going to be really looking at leading, not just only leading a team, but how do we communicate the vision to customers, to potential investors, to one of the key things that's a big part of success factor modeling is this developing of partnerships, just as what Pilar and I are doing and what we three are doing together with this seminar. You create things that have not existed before through working, working together, joining together, where we say that the essence of generative collaboration is 1 + 1 makes 3. Right? Not 1 + 1 makes 2, but 1 + 1 makes 3, where you are ending up with something greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Pilar, I know that you obviously experienced the whole course that I also did, and it was transformational. I wonder how you felt that impacted on your now international coaching practice.
I don't think I would be where I am without it.
Right.
So there is a before and there is an after.
Which
Not
I've said
only
before.
in the great relationship that I have formed with the two of you and with other few people that I met in there, but what I thought, it just gave me a different view of things.
Yes.
So I learned that there was a different way of seeing leadership, my own, coaching, business, the way of regarding myself, and where to position myself in where I wanted to go. And also, finally, I mean, this course was obviously a very long course. So it was almost
More
a
than 2
year.
days.
Yes, more than 2 days. Yes, it was almost
But
a
we
year,
can
and they
cover-
were a lot of work. So we can cover the main points. That's really what I invited you to do, and I said we have to do this. But also, I think what it gave me is that it gave me a very good framework in which to place what is that I want, where is that I am going, how can I get there. So it gave me, if you want, the basics into start taking off, really.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think that was my experience as well,
Yes.
creating the college. It was a framework that we operated out of and on as a
Yes.
platform.
Yes.
And certainly the idea of self-leadership, creating meaningful relationships and
Yes.
partnerships with people,
Yes.
because I certainly couldn't have done everything for myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd have fallen over. So there were the key things that I got from that. Which
But
leads me on
models,
to my...
But mainly, excuse me, because
Sure.
I interrupted. But mainly, I think the most important thing I got out of the course were applying certain models that for me were mind-blowing and
Yes.
life-changing. And those are the models that I really wanted for Robert to share
with.
with you lot. So yes, because they are so exciting. So yes, so they're really the models, and
Sure.
and how, I mean, we did it quite a few years ago, so how these models have developed,
Yeah.
because we are with Robert, which nothing stays too long, the same keeps on developing, and also how I have developed since I first saw the models, and how can I use them today.
Yes.
And that was actually a very interesting conversation that we also had.
So fantastic.
Yes.
So a question that I was asked the other day was, and I'm going to ask you guys the same question. So there are lots of books out there on leadership
Right.
and entrepreneurial thinking, and there are more seminars that you can shake a stick at on, you know,
Yes.
becoming an
Right.
entrepreneur and becoming a great leader and all that kind of thing. In a kind of a nutshell or a sentence, what would you say is the difference that will make the difference in these 2 days in Swindon?
I think, first of all, what we're bringing together from this background with NLP and success factor modeling is really a very practical experiences and exercises, but that touch at multiple levels, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of business books tell you, they give you behaviors, some give you inspiration. There's very few that can actually connect all the dots. So to me, if I was going to put it into a single word, it would be something like alignment. That is the
Yes.
alignment of multiple levels of success factors at the same time, because it's that's what creates the critical mass, right? That's going to be what gets you over that hump, because any one of these things by themselves is not going to be enough. And what I see with a lot of these books, many are kind of just scratching the surface. But what it takes to really succeed is, obviously it takes know-how, but it takes also a lot of commitment, a lot of engagement. It really takes the ability to be willing to risk and to give the best of yourself. So to be able to put that all together in one 2-day package. So I think, as you guys have been saying, that's what makes something literally transformational, life-changing, not just, oh, that's interesting information, or that's, you know, or even inspiring knowledge. It's, here's what will work.
Great. And yourself?
Yes, the only thing I would add to that is that it's not only the alignment on the leadership and into all the concepts of, but with the self, and with the growth that we need to do as person, as people, to actually get into that platform where the great generosity of the spirit has to be there, and to aim at a goal that is altruistic. So for great leadership to happen, for this course to be what it is, the great commitment is with ourselves, that we actually can become the alchemists, and that we can then create this visionary and worldwide class, bringing to first, we need to work on ourselves. What is good about this workshop is that, this seminar, is that with all the tools that Robert is excellent and well known and #1 at, which he is bringing, I think that maybe the value that I add is that journey into going from just being a mere mortal to actually, yes, you know, so what is the journey from being a mere mortal to be an alchemist? And there is a clear path to follow.
Sure.
So it's clear guidelines, and to find out more or less where we are in the journey and what is that we need to do to get ourselves there. And the tools that Robert is bringing are absolutely excellent for bringing it and owning it. And
so you're saying, as you said, that combination of guidelines and tools, rather than just information, or just knowledge, or but actually.
So there's a bit of wisdom in there as well.
Exactly.
There's a lot of wisdom there. Yes.
So one of the other things I wanted to touch base with you on was, I looked through the list of delegates that are coming, and we've got senior executives, one-man bands who've got an idea trying to build a company, partners in a law firm, accountancy practices, people from Spain, France, Germany, Israel, all over the UK. It sounds like one amazing networking event.
I know, it does to me too.
I wonder what your thoughts are of those kind of events. Because my experience is sometimes magic happens when you just get the right people in the room.
Well, I think that's that whole notion of what we're calling, collective intelligence, and which is this idea again of 1 + 1 making 3. And you can't get that quality with just a homogeneous group. That in fact you need diversity, you need difference, you need people that are coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, different places in their lives, and that's where you get this true complementarity, where people can each really contribute something to each other's journey, as Pilar was saying. So for me, I think it's in that great richness of difference, but directed towards, the common goal of people living their dreams and making a better world, is where you really get this potential for magic. So for me, yes, it definitely sounds like we've got the recipe for magic.
Fantastic. Oh, did you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. Just I think that the fact that it is multicultural, which is, I think that we are quite used to the multicultural. Yes,
we are multicultural.
We are multicultural, yes. But the fact that the atmosphere is multicultural adds to the experience of each of them, as Robert was saying. Also, it is interesting to see how these models, with these tools and these guidelines and this wisdom, can actually be interpreted differently to mold to the different cultures and the different backgrounds. And I think that I really can't wait for the question session, because that's what is really going to make it really alive. And I really can't wait for the questions after the explanation of the models. So, yes.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time. That's brilliant. We're really looking forward to hosting the event in sunny Swindon in June. And I think, by the sounds of it, it is just going to be fantastic. Yes. So thanks very much for your time.
We're looking forward to it. So,
a recipe for magic.
Yes, thank you.